Right, colleagues, can you hear me? Right, welcome back. I know you haven't had lunch, but thanks for being adaptive. See, it's change management. Circumstances, we need to move on our feet. So we spoke briefly and have formulated an identification as to who we define as being the stakeholders, and we also have defined what we describe as the proposal. If it gets adopted by the meeting, and then obviously will become a resolution of the meeting. So I'd like to start off the stakeholders. We think is quite a simple group to identify. We loosely refer to the political leaders. So whether they are South African political leaders or political leaders in SADC countries, they are all key role players as decision makers and influencers. Because at this moment in time, we're not going from bottom up, we're going top down. Then there are a number of what we refer to as mobilizers, which describes a pressure group, an action group. And those are your district communities. For example, the community that we are at the moment could be rural communities, but loosely defined, we just talk about district communities, i.e. beneficiaries of such a economic intervention. And then we have conservation groups. So Proa would be a conservation group and would play a dynamic role. There may be the SADC RMG, the IUC and Africa Rhino Specialist Group. Those are all mobilizers who we can approach. So can I hear from the floor, have we captured the stakeholders correctly? Are there any other groupings that we need to identify or add to what I've read out? Ma'am?
Just also to add, we need to say, because we talk about government, it can either be South African government or SADC as a region. But we need also to move further to say those who see similar solidarity when it comes to heritage. Because if we miss the heritage part, because we are saying we need to nurture the nature conversation as part of the ecosystem. So we need to say solidarity. We must not miss the word also there that talks to solidarity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's a very valid point, and I'm embarrassed to say we had not picked up heritage under the proposal, but we need to somehow bring that into the fabric as an awareness point amongst the stakeholders, and hopefully we capture that under the proposal. Okay. Willem?
Chair, is it too early to refer to future trade partners as stakeholders right now? The Chinese and the Thai and the Vietnamese.
You're correct. Again, we picked it up under the proposal, but you're right. They are stakeholders as well. So therefore, we spoke about political leaders as influencers on both sides of the world, of the globe.
Yeah.
So is that broad enough for you? Do you want me to detail that?
I think, well, I'm making the proposal that we detail it specifically because they are major role players in this whole issue.
Okay.
And why can't we consult with them from an early stage and also paving the way to that moral high ground on which we want to find ourselves one day? Is that we don't engage under the table with trade partners. We bring them out into the open. That is the open thing must be featuring quite prominently in the proposal.
Okay, very valid point. And I'm even putting here a question mark behind CITES as well. Was it actually pulls together in certain areas? All right, so I want to repeat the stakeholders are political leaders I originally spoke only about South Africa, SADC countries, etc. Now it has been suggested that we also need to look at potential political leaders in the trading partner environment as well. And obviously in part of this dialogue, we may pick up CITES as well. Okay, are we comfortable on that? And a reiteration of the district communities as mobilizers, conservation groups, and we need to bring into that this aspect of heritage responsibilities. In terms of the proposal, and please, it's a working document. The terminology may not be perfect. We need to just still polish it. We only had a few minutes. But from the dialogue we heard this morning, now you will remember in the presentation that I made from the Committee of Inquiry, 8 key objectives were identified. Those 8 key objectives to today have not been changed. They are still recognized by the high-level panel, and we are working towards the implementation of it. So for us to go back to government with a completely different radical structure and form, it means we've got to go back to the starting block. So I'm saying if we agree on the 8 key components of rhino conservation, which includes, I remind you, communities, transformation, etc. So we use that as a starting point. So the proposal is to achieve the 8 key outcomes as described in the Committee of Inquiry report, to engage with trade partners to open international trade from CBOs, ranched and wild specimens of the species. So what I'm saying there is, remember, a rhino is an Appendix 1 or an Appendix 2 animal, and the specimen of the species is the horn, which is an Appendix 1. It has an annotation. And so we are not talking about the open trade of rhino internationally. We are talking purely the specimen of the species. So we are not advocating that Kruger Park must go out and dehorn all of their rhino so that they can start to trade rhino horn. That's not what we're saying. We're simply saying that Kruger Park or whomever willingly, because don't forget, you must want to trade. If you don't want to trade, it's not part of your ethos or your business plan, that is your right not to become a trader in rhino horn. But if, however, you have a stockpile from natural mortalities, from dehorning, and you wish to trade, the specimen of the species, being the horn, is what we're asking. So I'm going to repeat that. To achieve the 8 key outcomes as described in the Committee of Inquiry report, to engage with trade partners to open international trade from CBOs, ranched and wild specimen of the species. It's resolution 1. Is everybody comfortable with that? Would you like to add on it? Shall I read all of the resolutions? Any comments? Let me move on to the next resolution. To urgently engage with SADC members, OAU, to gain support to this objective, to support rural communities, achieve transformation, skills development, and economic opportunities. Okay? So we've told the world this is what we want to do. And now the second part is we're telling them why we want to do it. That second point still has to be fleshed out a bit because we don't make reference to species survival, which is in fact what this is all about. So that needs to come into this second resolution. And also the aspect that has been raised again of the importance of under species survival, the importance of the heritage, the recognition of the heritage within our communities as a conservation driver. Is the meeting comfortable with the second resolution? Any objectives? Is it unanimous? Good, thank you. So colleagues, then what I'm going to suggest is that we now will take these two, we will refine them, and we'll turn it into a resolution from the meeting, and then in turn we will ask our colleagues to drive it forward within the political sphere to see what can be achieved going forward. Is there anything else that anybody would like to raise before I start to stand down? You've heard my voice too much already. Everybody happy? Is Lindiwe here? Won't somebody go and ask Lindiwe to join us, because she was going to close the meeting? I don't know if she had to take a call quickly. While we're waiting for Lindiwe, the other aspect is that this community are in fact planning now to start their own CBO. That they will be acquiring rhino, that they will start to develop their breeding program on the line of a community project, and to the benefit of the reserve, etc. So, Lindiwe, we in your absence have nominated you president for life. So we have adopted the 2 resolutions. I have also announced the proposal of the creation of a CBO on this reserve, and now I'd like to ask you to kindly close the meeting.
I think if you can allow me to close in my language, it will be easier, because now I have to think twice. Okay. Thank you. So I'd like to say, since we now reached the end of this session, although the turnout was not as anticipated, but I think we have tried and we've done well. At least it's been live streamed, because I think, Pelman, you got some responses from people. And what is more important, we, as I said earlier on, economy recovery is the language in South Africa at the moment. We can do whatever we'd like to do. We can say whatever we'd like to do. We can lobby as much political will. But without the economy moving, or without the economic will, we can't do anything, including with our neighbors, Eswatini. So we need to take this dialogue further. We need to have as much participants in future, but at the end of the day, it's the rand and cents that are being lost on a daily level. Secondly, I'd like to appreciate that Proa, you've actually responded to a very, very quick, what shall I call it? Opportunity. And at the same time, I would like to mention this. We hope that this dialogue is taken through as a consultative process in the engagements to the President's National State of Address. It would be nice if something like this comes in or pops into his speeches, or whoever that would advise into that. And second to that, with the Minister of Finance, part of the budget speech, it is important that if part of the tips, because they normally have what they call the tips on an annual basis, for us to submit, and maybe this could be also highlighted as a highlight to say what we have and what we're hoping to have. Besides the CITES, I think we need to take a bold step. We don't need every time to really beg for certain developments in our country. We know where we come from. We know what makes us. We know what we need. We know what we want to achieve. So irrespective of, we respect the CITES, but we're saying it's about time that they listen to us in Africa or in the SADC region or the entire continent when it comes to wildlife and any other thing. We need to be now the ones that are in the forefront of being heard, because this thing of continuously going into such member state meetings and at the end of the day begging, we cannot afford it. Our position or our situation at the moment requires us to become extremely creative with the resources that we have. And indeed, we are challenging the district, and as the reason why we're saying we'd like to have a community CBO is in actual fact to enable the district to also include this in their whole district economic model, so that there's something. One has to do something. They always say the empowered should be in a position to empower. So I think empowerment in this country is not only supposed to be the privileged, but if I was disadvantaged and I became advantaged or privileged, I need to also showcase some kind of empowerment or give some kind of empowerment. So I'm saying we're not stopping, Mr. Warren, on the language of unlocking trade in the wildlife, particularly with the rhino horn. We are not stopping anything. And I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Velum. That surname is very difficult to pronounce. Oh, Shagazul. Okay. I would like to thank you for a very insightful presentation. And indeed, we would like your contribution to go to go an extra mile. And really, really, if we can have those models that could be implemented in all structures. And also, I'd like to thank the game ranchers or the members of Proa and other associations related to the to wildlife, to say thank you so much for taking the time and effort. And I always believe that we would still want our members to lobby as much. We would want members to come in numbers. And then on the subject of transformation, again, of course, we need transformation, but transformation can also be done by those that have been disadvantaged and advantaged and now capable. Because we do have black empowered game farmers in the country, but we also expect much from them, because a lot of them are also operating in silos, and would like them to come forward and also address the transformation, because they also need to be in the forefront of trying to create a more of a sustainable industry or sector. I would like to also thank all the delegates that we invited on short notice to actually avail themselves today and share any other input. And more important, as I said, Proa, thank you for making this possible. And as you said, it's not about the quantity, but it's about the quality. And this journey, we're not stopping here. And I also want to challenge, even if the site is, I want to challenge the CITES somehow. Challenge South Africa to challenge the CITES. Challenge Eswatini to challenge the CITES, Namibia, because we need to take a firm stand. And I think our campaign should start now. We need to talk about, we cannot afford, our ranchers cannot afford keeping a rhino. It is not practical anymore. And the extinction will come from people who, at the end of the day, would say we cannot continue. And then thank you again to the delegation from the Kingdom of Eswatini to have also responded on a short notice call, to have came and assisted, not really assisted, but had some kind of input into the dialogue. And I'd like to say it's a battle that we all have to really take forward and recognize that we should be players in our own space. And yeah, thank you to everyone, and we shall have more of these engagements. And more important, we will create things that instead of talk, but would be, physically seen to be in action. Thank you.
Mariwe's commitment in turn to conservation, because she has spent a huge amount of her own time and effort in convening these various meetings. There were similar meetings held in Zululand, and truly you are a hero to many of us. Thank you very much.